It seems my husband has been possessed by a devil.
I'm giving this house to Susan. If you oppose me, we're getting a divorce.
He's planning to give our house, which is under my name, to our eldest son's wife?
Old hag, get out of here ASAP.
The wife who got my husband on her side.
I'm changing it to my name, LOL. I can handle a monthly mortgage of about $1,800 easily.
It seems my eldest son has joined her. Well, I don't have any attachment to this filthy house anymore. I'll move out then. I will make sure all three of you go to hell. Prepare yourselves. My name is Grace, and I'm 60. I work in an executive position in a major corporation. I live with my husband, Robert, who is 2 years younger. Last year, we renovated our house for our future. Our house was built by my father, and it's quite old. For that reason, it was really worn out, and we wanted to make it easier to live in as we approach our old age. However, because of our age, the loan is a bit high at $1,800. However, it's not an amount we can't afford, and I was told that the loan would be approved since I work in an executive position at a major company. By the way, Robert is a manager at a small restaurant, and his income is less than mine, so apparently it's easier for me to get a loan. It would be difficult for me to keep paying off the loan with my income. It was originally your father's house, and now it's in your name. I feel bad, but could you pay the entire amount? I'll make up for it by contributing more to our living expenses. We discussed this together and decided to renovate. Our home has become so beautiful and comfortable that it's almost unrecognizable. I was so happy that by renovating the house where I had spent my childhood, I could continue to live there forever. That's what I thought. I never thought the day when I would have to leave this house would come. One day, my smartphone vibrates. I'm getting married. I was told this by my eldest son, Jack, over the phone. Jack is 31 years old and a section chief at a major company. Our eldest son has always been diligent, dedicating himself to studying and club activities. He's also very dedicated to his work after being an adult. Because of that, I hadn't heard any rumors about his love life. I was really curious about the woman that Jack was thinking of marrying. Indeed, very intriguing. What kind of woman could she be? If Jack likes her, she must be wonderful. But I wonder if she's scheming something, taking advantage of Jack's lack of dating experience. I was half excited, half anxious about the woman our son would be bringing home for the first time. Then came the day of meeting her. A neat woman with brown hair and wearing a white chiffon dress showed up.
I'm Susan. Nice to meet you.
She had very good manners and a neat appearance, making a great first impression.
Nice to meet you, Dad, Mom.
Showing her clean white teeth, she smiled at us. I can entrust Jack to her. That's what I was thinking, and Robert also seemed to feel the same way, smiling broadly. She's a good girl, as Robert murmured quietly. I'm very pleased to hear that from you, sir. I'm looking forward to getting along with you, she said, clutching Robert's hand and looking into his eyes. What on earth is she doing? Surprised by her close distance, I pulled back a bit. Jack seemed surprised too, but Robert didn't seem bothered. I wasn't jealous, but it was not a pleasant feeling. What are you doing? Thinking it wasn't good for Jack, I addressed Susan. Then, in a flustered manner, she said,
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that on our first meeting. I'm really sorry.
And immediately let go of Robert's hand.
I often hear from everyone that I don't understand personal space. I don't mean any harm. I just end up doing it. I'm really sorry.
She doesn't seem like a bad person. But I couldn't hide my surprise at her behavior even though my first impression was good. But Jack was head over heels for her. Also for her behavior. You know, Susan may not understand personal space, but I think that's one of her good points. She approached me even though I'm shy and have trouble approaching women. That's why I'm able to be in a relationship with Susan and even considering marrying her. I didn't expect the usual introverted Jack to change this much due to Susan's behavior. I entrust Jack to you. I had a lot of speculation, but I recognize she's a good person. I approved their marriage, and then things moved quickly and they got married a few weeks later. I wished them all the happiness from the bottom of my heart. Half a year after their marriage, one day, I'm home, huh? When I got home from work, I saw a woman's shoes at the entrance. In the living room, there was Susan. Ah, welcome back, mother-in-law. Looking at the table, there was lots of empty cans and bottles of booze. It seemed they had been drinking. What is this? Why were they having a drinking party without Jack? Being curious, I asked.
Well, when I was coming back home from work, I bumped into Susan. She said she wanted to get along with me better, so we decided to have a drink. But I'm broke before payday, so I suggested we drink at home.
Why have a drinking party at home? It would be better if Jack was also there, and I didn't want to intrude on the newlyweds. They could have just drank at Jack and Susan's place. I asked while tilting my head.
It would have been fine at our place, but this house is so beautiful. And right now, our place is a mess.
Susan, who wasn't pronouncing words properly. I was surprised because she usually speaks politely, but she started speaking casually, probably because she was drinking. But why were they drinking together? Why didn't you invite Jack? For a daughter-in-law to come to her in-law's house alone, and to come for drinks while they're newlyweds, I think it's a little out of the ordinary. From the moment I saw the two of them, I have been looking for Jack.
Jack is, he's so caught up in the busy season at work, and I've been working overtime nonstop. That's why I'm just so lonely.
Susan starts to cry as she says this. Shush now, Susan. It's not your fault. The one to blame is Jack for leaving his newlywed wife alone. Robert begins to console her, stroking her hair.
Oh, Daddy-in-law.
What a bizarre scene. It's rather nauseating. Hey, Robert, Susan is your daughter-in-law. It's disrespectful to Jack. You shouldn't act like this. I scold Robert for his inappropriate behavior, but then...
Don't scold Daddy-in-law, please.
Susan stands up for Robert. What? Her response was so absurd I couldn't help but blurt out my confusion. I had a lot to say, but after a tiring day at work, I couldn't be bothered. I'm going to take a bath. Please clean up after. I sigh as I head to the bathroom to escape. Then I call Jack to explain the situation. He says he'll stop working and come to pick Susan up right away. I see Susan as a bit eccentric, but Jack must really love her to be willing to leave work and come get her. But it might be a bit challenging to live with her after marriage. I may not be the best mother-in-law, but once Jack arrives, I've decided to offer him some advice on married life. Time flies as I soak in the tub, lost in thought. Feeling a bit lightheaded, I head to the living room, where I find Jack has arrived to pick up Susan. Or so I thought. But despite having driven here, he's drinking. Jack, you drove here, right? You're not supposed to drink. I question him, and he cheerfully replies in a tipsy state. No, Susan said she wanted to drink, so I decided to stay the night. I'm glad my son will be staying over. But the daughter-in-law who's left a bad impression is here too, and all of a sudden, I'm honestly baffled. But Jack's already been drinking. I can give you guys a lift. I really don't want the daughter-in-law to stay over. Despite being tired, I propose to drive them home. But then... No, I feel bad for you. You must be tired too. How about you join us for a drink? Jack suggests with an easygoing smile. I can't say anything more. Huh? At this moment, something felt off. Suddenly, Susan cracked a mischievous smile. Yes, indeed. It was as if she was laughing at my bewildered state. It's just my imagination, right? I tried to convince myself it was just a misunderstanding, but in fact, her incredibly terrific plan had already begun at that point. The next day, Susan kept apologizing for her blunder.
I'm truly sorry,
she said and left, and I felt relieved as if a storm had passed. Then that day when I got home, Susan was there again. There was no sign of Jack. I was filled with a sense of despair, but the situation was different from the day before.
I'm sorry to disturb you again, but I really wanted to apologize, she said, offering me some sweets.
I guess I got carried away. My bad. Robert seemed remorseful.
It was a bit annoying, but they seemed to be reflecting, so I should let it go this time. I forgave them. Thank you. And maybe because Susan felt quite awkward about the whole thing, she stopped coming over. Frankly, I didn't want to deal with her much, so I was grateful for the outcome. So I thought. Until one day. Robert came to me with a serious face, saying he had something to talk about. As I was wondering what it was and stayed in the living room, Jack and Susan came home. It's been a while. I greeted them, but for some reason I was ignored. Did they not hear me? As I was wondering, Robert suddenly shouted, "I'm giving this house to Susan. If you object, we're getting a divorce."
What? as I thought he was suddenly blabbering about he's giving the house to Susan. I didn't understand. As I was taken aback,
Mother-in-law, please leave.
Susan said that. What? What does that mean? I was in chaos. Hold on, what do you mean you're giving the house to Susan? When I questioned, Robert answered, You've been bullying Susan all this time, doing such a stupid thing. Bullying? Baseless. That's impossible. But no matter how much I argued, Robert wouldn't listen. Shut up, she said so. That's why she was crying that she couldn't come home until now. Robert kept yelling, and Susan was shedding tears. Why did it come to this? Then Jack snapped, as if to join in. I didn't think my mother would do something like that. This is seriously messed up. The more I denied it, the angrier the two of them got, and Susan was overflowing with tears. That's why I'm divorcing you. Get out now. I'm staying here with the two of them. Why on earth should I have to give my house to Susan? When I ask, he retorts, Because Susan is deeply hurt. Normally we should be demanding compensation, but I think there's a better way. To take away your precious house and give it to Susan. That way, it should inflict appropriate damage on you, right? I didn't bully her. Why do I have to be hurt? Besides, there's no way Susan, who quit her job when she got married, can pay an $1,800 loan. When I say that, he replies, Don't worry, the title will be in Jack's name. With Jack's salary and previous employer, we can immediately change the title. Even so, since the loan is in place, changing the title is basically difficult. If it were that easy to change the loan, anyone could buy a house. I don't think the bank will approve it. When I say that, Robert says, You work for a big corporation, and so does Jack, so it should be okay. Plus, one of my friends works at the bank where you have your loan. I think we can talk to him and everything will be okay. It's unclear where such confidence came from. That's right, an $1,800 loan is no big deal, LOL. Jack, brimming with confidence, led by Robert's words. It has become a real matter that I will have to hand over the house. I've said it over and over, I haven't bullied her, so I absolutely won't give up the house. When I object, they both blow up again. Ugh, this is too much. As I'm getting fed up, Susan, who has been crying the whole time, speaks up.
Mother-in-law, for the sake of this child, please.
Susan pleads, stroking her belly. No way. Mom, Susan is pregnant. If she remains as mentally unstable, she might have a miscarriage, right? So please, give in. She announces her pregnancy here. Stress is indeed a big enemy during pregnancy, but that doesn't mean I should give up my house because of some unfounded accusations. I remain perplexed. Just leave me alone for a bit. I leave the scene and go to the bedroom. Bullying? Have I unknowingly been horrible to Susan? As I'm lying on the bed riddled with worry. What's this? There's a strand of brown hair on the bed. Both Robert's and my hair are black. There's no way a strand of brown hair could fall. Wait, has there been an affair? On top of the early argument, now this awful truth is revealed. My mind is on the verge of exploding. I don't even know what's going on anymore. I cry myself to sleep, and when I wake up, it's night. As I try to enter the living room, I could hear voices. It seems that Jack and Susan aren't back home yet.
I wish I could have a drink too.
You can't. You're pregnant, remember? Robert and Susan, full of enthusiasm. I found no chance to intervene. The mysterious accusation of Susan left me in despair. As I remained unable to enter the living room, suddenly I heard the sound of an intimate encounter. Oh, Susan, I love you.
Stop it, Robert. Jack and my mother-in-law will find out, you know.
Huh? What the hell are Robert and Susan doing? What on earth is happening here? Don't worry, Jack is passed out drunk, and Grace hasn't come out of her room for a while. She's probably sleeping already.
LOL, is she sulking? LOL, too funny, LOL.
The brown hair probably belonged to Susan. It's disgusting. What were these two doing on the bed I was sleeping in until just a few moments ago? I feel nauseous. I bet they kicked me out and planned to have a good time with Susan, hidden from Jack. My home, a venue for their illicit affair. Fine, I'll let go of this disgusting home. But you will see consequences. The next morning, I acted as if I'd been asleep in my room and nothing happened in front of the three. Actually, I didn't want to sleep in that bed anymore, and I was too shocked to get any sleep. Finally handing over the house. When I said, I've decided to hand over the house, everyone broke into a grin. Great, let's get the transfer of ownership done. I'm sure I can get a loan approved in no time. Jack is quite excited. This kid probably doesn't know anything. It made me sad, but I won't tell the truth to a son who doesn't listen to his mother and is completely controlled by his wife. Not yet. And then days of hustle and bustle followed with divorce procedures and transfer of ownership. It was quite tough, but somehow we managed to change the ownership. From today, it's no longer your house, Robert cheered.
Get out of here, old lady, LOL, Susan whispered into my ear. It pissed me off. I'll leave. You don't have to tell me. Letting go of the house I lived in all my life, it was sad, but had become a place of infidelity. No regrets left. From now on, I'll mess with these three and their odd relationship. You all will be sorry for what you did. About a month after I moved out, finally I'm ready, I returned to my former home. When I rang the doorbell, "What does a stranger want here?" Even after such a long time, Robert was furious. "Can I come in? I have something to say," I assertively requested. "Why should I let you in my house?" Robert is reluctant to let me in. "I have something important to say. It's also for Susan's sake." "Something important for Susie?" As soon as I mentioned her name, he let me in without hesitation. Honestly, I didn't want to say her name because it made me feel sick, but I knew Robert was soft for her, so I played that card. "An outsider is here." "An outsider? Sure, we're divorced and hence strangers now, but is that the right way to say it?" I was irritated by Robert's reaction. "What do you want after all this time?" The three of them are on high alert. "I want you to look at this. What is this?" I laid out the photos. This is... The photos are of Robert and Susan on a date. Actually, since we divorced, I had hired a private investigator to tail them. As a result, I obtained photos of them on a date. "Just wait a minute. What? Jack is shocked. Then, "What are these photos supposed to mean? We're a close father-in-law and daughter-in-law. Nothing more, nothing less." "Yeah, what do you want taking these nonsensical photos?" Two of them insist they're just close. "Well then, how about this?" I took out my smartphone and played a recording.
"I really do love Susan." "Hey, if you speak so loudly, Jack and mother-in-law will wake up."
It's a recording of Robert and Susan's voices and their indistinct chatter. What? Actually, the day I discovered the relationship, I had recorded their conversation. "No, this is a misunderstanding." Robert desperately tried to explain. "What misunderstanding? This is clearly not okay." As expected, Jack was furious. She kept her head down. I decided to add fuel to the fire. "Listen, I hate to ask, but who's really the father of that baby in your belly?" Jack's face went pale instantly. "Do you mean it's with Dad?" "No way. My father-in-law was pulling it out every time." "Oh." She dug her own grave. "You just admitted it, didn't you? You just admitted it!" The three of them shouted. Robert and Jack ended up wrestling each other. "Ouch!" She seemed to have had a cramp in her stomach due to the fight, interrupting their scuffle. Then I immediately said, "I've been saying this all along, haven't I? I haven't been bullying Susan. Could it be that you were lying just to drive me away? To make Jack believe?" Jack was taken aback. "You're kidding. What the hell? That's just messed up. With you guys, and I couldn't trust my own mom." Jack, who couldn't trust his mother and listened to the wicked woman, seemed to be blaming himself. "Now that you understand all this, spill everything." Jack shouted angrily at the two of them. They hesitated to confess, but then said, "We have enough evidence here. Are we going to court?" The word court triggered them, and they finally began to talk. Apparently, at first, she seemed to have loved Jack, but when they came to our newly renovated and beautiful home for their marriage proposal, she wanted a house like ours. My parents' house was pretty run down, and I was jealous of a beautiful house like this. The interior was quite nice, too, she explained while shedding tears. The woman who wanted a house seemed to have planned to win over Robert on the day of the marriage proposal. So she intentionally ambushed Robert after his work without inviting Jack and drank at home. For several months that Jack did not come home, she nurtured love with Robert and seemed to have planned to push me out. "Then you should have proposed to live together from the beginning." When I said that, she paused and then answered, "I have a bad image of a mother-in-law. My mom and grandma at home fought every day because grandma was bullying my mom. I didn't want to live with a mother-in-law. The only way to live comfortably in a beautiful house was to get the mother-in-law to leave." Surely, with such an image, one would not want to live with a mother-in-law, but stealing your father-in-law. However, what did Robert think about this fact? "I knew I was being used, but when she came to greet me, held my hand and smiled, Robert, who fell in love, knew he was being used, but he seemed to have done such a thing to abandon me and keep her by his side. "You guys, you're the worst." When Jack said so, the two of them lowered their heads and shed tears. After that, Jack naturally divorced. When he checked the DNA of the child born, just in case, it turned out to be Robert's child.
I won't pay child support. Saying so, Jack demanded compensation from the two of them. Of course, me too. I can't believe I'm suing my own father for compensation. I patted Jack's head as he sighed in disbelief. That crazy woman had thrown us all for a loop. But the one who's going to regret messing up her life more than any of us is her from here on out. And my hunch was right on the money. Fast forward 2 years, she remarried Robert and decided to stick it out without divorcing, for the sake of their child. She then put the child she had given birth to in daycare so she could work. Oh look, Uncle, came to pick you up today. Apparently she's been getting the side eye from other moms at the daycare. The kids seem to be getting along fine, but she's feeling down because she can't make any mom friends. And when she tried to explain her divorce and remarriage to Robert to her own parents, they were furious, and their anger was directed at Robert. She's been estranged from them ever since. All of this is her own doing. And as for that house, Jack is living there alone. I wanted to sell it, but that would be too harsh on Mom. After all, this is the house where she's been living since she was born, right? A house full of memories. I just can't sell it. I told him I didn't care and that the house was creepy after all that, but he was so guilt-ridden that he couldn't sell it. And maybe because I've been saying that house gives me the creeps too much, he had it professionally cleaned and he threw out all of Robert and Susan's belongings. And Jack, who did all that for me, said, "Even though it was because of that woman, I did something terrible to Mom. I know you probably won't forgive me, but please, visit me or come to the house on a whim and let me show you some devotion." And with that, he gifted me with a ticket for a hot springs trip. Jack has definitely shown remorse. I can't forgive him yet, but I think I'll try to work towards rebuilding our parent-child relationship as it once was.